What is that we look for in companies? We look for basically three things. If we invest, we're going to be partners. We're going to be partnering for the next decade, 2 decades.
What made that pitch so compelling?
This is not science and it's art, at least in our view. I would say that the key element here is to make sure that the process that you're structuring, it's focused on a few days or weeks. A great pitch is the pitch where we can learn about the business, about the market, and about the founder.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fundraising School. I'm Andres Bilbao, and today I have the joy of introducing Nico Berman. You guys probably know that Nico is one of the partners at Kaszek, and you also probably know that Kaszek is one of the most successful investment firms in Latin America, and it is probably one of the few institutions that is responsible with a lot of the success that we've seen in Latin America in venture capital. Nico has a remarkable background, including a decade at Mercado Libre, where he was instrumental in their growth and journey. He's also a Kaufman Fellow, a seasoned angel investor, and now a seasoned VC, having invested in some of the best companies in Latin America over the last decade. In this episode, Nico shares his journey from operator to investor and offers invaluable advice for founders preparing to raise their Series A. We'll cover topics that range from what makes a pitch stand out, how to assess market potential, and the importance of aligning values with your investors. If you're looking to build an impactful business and secure strategic investment, but more importantly, understand how top investors in Latin America think, this episode is for you.
Again, Nico, thank you so much for being with us today. For those who don't know, Nico Berman, he is a partner at Kaszek Ventures, which is one of the premier VC funds in Latin America. Previously to being a venture capitalist, he spent 13 years at Mercado Libre, including roles in as VP of Advertising, VP of Marketing, and he also established the company's largest affiliate program in Latin America. Nico has been a very important also angel investor for the LATAM ecosystem. He is a Kaufman Fellow like me, which I'm very proud of, and he's also an active member of Endeavor. Nico, again, thank you for being with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for the invitation. Great to know that there's a lot of interest in the topic. I mean, in building things and trying to change the world for better.
That's great, and we're hoping that this helps a lot of founders go to that next stage. Nico, we wanted to start just by learning a little bit more about you and what made you move, or let's say go from Mercado Libre and having an operational role to deciding to become an investor.
Super. So as you mentioned, my life in tech started when I was 22 at Mercado Libre. The company had just started. It was Marcos, Hernand, a few more. I was number 8 to join, so it was definitely a few more in a garage in Buenos Aires. And that was literally 2 parking spaces with dry walls and just one door, no windows. Under it was -1 floor. So very, very fun times. We had a chance. This was '99 in Latin America, so we had the chance to be exposed to basically having to build a company by experimenting everything ourselves, because at that time you couldn't hire someone to come and do stuff. It's like, oh, I need someone for product. Okay, let's go to LinkedIn and bring someone that does product. There was no big
product
team,
managers
right?
in Latam might not have existed at that point.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And that was the case for everything. So Google, 2001, we started doing paid media with them, and there was not even AdWords by the time. It was just, us sending a spreadsheet to Mountain View so that they will upload the keywords. And we were the first one, and we had been we were the only ones advertising on Google for a year and a half. So it's like, okay, who do we bring to build the campaigns? No? So we had to learn everything by experimenting it ourselves. And that basically took us a toll in terms of the thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of mistakes that we made. It was one after the other. We were humble enough to recognize them very fast, and we moved very fast into changing directions whenever was needed. So all those mistakes that we made, that was basically a lot of learnings, right? The company, because I think we were recognizing the mistakes and taking them to the right taking the company to the right direction. It ended up being a great success story. Today, Mercado Libre is huge. It's trading in the NASDAQ. I don't know, it's probably a $70 billion company. So story ended fantastically well, but it took us to make, and recognize millions of mistakes. And those mistakes over time, 2007, the company was already profitable. We were doing our IPO in the NASDAQ. We returned the capital to our investors many, many times. At that time, something happened to me that was like, with all these learnings from all these years at Meli, I started to feel the responsibility and the need to give back to the entrepreneurial community part of that, of those learnings. So with Hernan and Nico, we decided to start helping some entrepreneurs to not make the same mistakes that we did in the past. New mistakes always open to those, but at least to help them to not make the same mistakes. And that was basically when we started doing some angel investing. And over the years, and this is 2011 already, we realized that we could add more value to the world by helping the new cohorts of entrepreneurs to build the new Mercado Libres than to stay in the company. We already had benches in Mercado Libre, people that could replace us and even do things much better than us. So we started to feel that it was about time for us to move into helping the new cohorts of entrepreneurs to maximize their chance of success. And when we looked into the ecosystem, at least in LATAM, few pools of capital, and most of that capital was in hands of people with different, let's put it, experiences and skill sets to us. Mostly was people from banking or consultancy. And we realized that, us as entrepreneurs with a lot of experience, we could bring something to the ecosystem that nobody else had. So that's when we decided that it was not only something that we wanted to do, but it was actually going to be pretty good for the ecosystem. And that's when Kaszek started, and that's basically the seed of why I decided to move into venture.
Oh, that makes sense, especially when you choose who you're gonna support. You're basically kind of putting a bet on how you want to see the future, and you're having a hand on shaping that. So that's fascinating. Do you remember which ones were some of your first investments and what drove you to those companies?
One of my first investments was Pedido Ya, which today is the leading restaurants and whatever you want to get in your house delivery service in many countries of LATAM. So in Brazil, you have a company that's called iFood. Then in the northern part of LATAM, you have Rappi. And in the southern part of LATAM, you have these companies called Pedido Ya. And what drove me to start working with them was that, first of all, it was the first company getting into this landscape. So there was no Rappi or iFood at that time. But most importantly, it was the founders. When I met the founders, extraordinary people, with drive, passionate, purpose-driven, with a vision. It was inspiring to me to see them and say, why wouldn't I help them, right? If I can help them to cut some corners and make the path much enjoyable and faster and more successful with some tips from what I learned in the past, why not? I actually, last Saturday, one of the co-founders got married. I was there in his wedding. I still see them from time to time. They're fantastic.
That's amazing. And I think that's one of the most fascinating things of working in venture capital, that you get to spend time with amazing, wise, and driven people that really want to change the world. And it's just contagious. That energy is something that you want to be close to. going into more on let's go more first on what is Kaszek today, what do you guys invest in, what is a type of founder that drives you, and maybe how do you make a choice on when to invest at the different stages of the VC landscape?
Yeah, super. So Kaszek, we are a firm that invests across Latin America. We raised the first fund in 2011. That was a $100 million fund. And since then, we raised 6 early stage funds and 3 opportunity funds, growth stage funds. Last fundraise was last year. It was $1 billion in capital. And the prior one in 2021 was $1 billion in capital. And the prior one, 2019, was $600 million in capital. So we basically have a pool of capital that comes mostly from institutional investors, and this is mostly endowments, foundations, etc., that provide us the capital to invest in companies in the region. And I bring this detail about who are our investors, because it's a huge responsibility when we invest that money. It's if things go well, then there's more people that's gonna get vaccinated and educated and food. If we do things badly, then it's a huge responsibility, because there's someone else that won't be getting a vaccine or education. So it's a huge responsibility on our end. And what we do is we invest across LATAM, as mentioned, at any stage. We do PowerPoints, as was the case of Nubank. Nubank, David came with a PowerPoint below his arm. He had not even co-founders at that time, and we decided to invest in the company back then. Of course, we do from there, we do seed, we do Series A, we do Series B, with the opportunity, we do C, D, pre-IPO. In some cases, we even did some post-IPO investments. So we invest in any moment of the company, in any industry, but with the caveat in industries where we think that we feel that we can add value, right? We are entrepreneurial DNA, right? We come from being entrepreneurs. We have that DNA all across the organization. So we work very hard alongside with the founders. We are never in the driver's seat. The founder should always be in the driver's seat. What we do is we are the co-pilot that's over there helping with the, hey, there's going to be a tough curve now, and now we can accelerate. But the ones deciding and driving the car, it's always the founder. There is, if pinchamos, if a tire goes flat, then we go together down. We go there and change the tire together. So we are very, very hands-on. So for us, it's very important to see that whenever we invest in a company, we can add value. Why this is important? Because on one end, we have more fun. We don't like to just like have a board meeting once a month or once every 2 months and see a bunch of numbers and a report. It's a company is much more than a PowerPoint presentation. There's so many things. And we enjoy that. We enjoy being, close to the founders, tackling the problems and trying to help them. But at the same time, Mercado Libre, we had more, let's put it, financial investors back then that were extremely smart and nice people, but they weren't adding much value because they didn't have that experience. So we suffer ourselves what it is to not, it's not suffering, but it's much better when you can have investors that can actually help you in day-by-day stuff and the strategy and everything. So we do any industry where we can add value, and in LATAM, any stage. And something that we look, and probably this is seeing the title of this conversation, getting there. So what is that we look for in companies? We look for basically 3 things. First of all, which is not the most important one, but to put it in some order, we look for TAM. We look for what is the potential outcome of that company, right? Why? Because we want to generate as much positive impact in the world as possible. And we will only invest per fund in 20-25 companies. So we want to make sure that we are investing in companies that can be really, really, really big, that can generate a lot of impact in society.
And
So
maybe,
when we
sorry,
look-
Nico, just to make sure that everybody gets it, the TAM is the total addressable market, so that the market is
Yes.
big enough.
So we look for huge markets, right? And growing markets, ideally. So that is number one. As a firm, we want to produce extraordinary returns. So we also, this connects also very well with if you want extraordinary returns, you need to go after extraordinary markets. So this is number one, it's the TAM. Then if you want to build something extraordinarily big, right? And as an example, if you want to build a house, right? A regular house. It's any architect in the world can build that house. Anyone that just got graduated, you can just like hire that person and it will build a house. If you want to build the Burj Khalifa of the world, this huge tower in Middle East, in Dubai, there are only 2, 3, 4 architects, studies of architects or group of architects in the world that can make that happen. And why? Because they're definitely extraordinary, right? So if you want to build something extraordinary, you need extraordinary people behind. So something that we look very, very carefully and into is the founding team. We look for extraordinary people. And the other thing, the third point that we look into is what we call BOB. And what is BOB? Beauty of business, right? And we like to invest in those businesses that when you look at them, it's like, it's a beautiful business, right? Why? Because it has low capital requirements, because it has a path or great unit economics, path to or great. Most of the cases, it's a path to. It can generate moats. Generating moats is super important. And why is this so important? And actually something that I encourage everyone here to look into in your business is that do I have moats? Can I generate these moats? And why is it that important? Because these barriers, these moats, basically help you to make sure that you can grab the whole market. And rewinding a minute, right? If you are building a business where that has zero defenses, that anybody can just anywhere in the world copy what you're doing and next day is competing against you, what is going to happen? You have a huge market, maybe you're going after a huge market, but there are no defenses, so suddenly there's 1,000 companies doing the same as you. So that market is going to be divided into 1,000, right? So now that huge market doesn't seem that you will be able to grab that completely, right? But if you are in a business where you can create moats, things that as you grow will make you even better than competitors, these barriers for competitors, what will happen is that you have that huge market, and if nobody can compete you because you have defenses, then that is going to be your market. You can grab that full market. So moats, super important, and a key question that we always make ourselves when investing in companies. So team, TAM, and Bob are the 3 things that we look into. And within team, that it's usually the question, what is it that we look for in teams? We look for purpose-driven, we look for leadership, resilience, founders that can be coachable, vision. We always look for something that we call superpower. If this team is unique, okay, it's unique in what? What is their superpower that makes them so different? We also look into founder market fit, the same way that there is a product market fit. We like to see that there is a founder market fit, that the founder understands the market, the product, etc. And the other that is actually one of the first things that we look for is core values. Is this a person with whom I want to get married? Because whenever we invest in a company, and by the way, when we invest, we always try to lead, because when we invest, we want to we invest out of full conviction. We don't like these spray and pray things of, just in case I'm going to put some money here and there. No. If we invest, we're going to be partners. We're going to be partnering for the next decade, 2 decades. So we want to make sure that in terms of core values, that we share that, that whenever something might come that requires core values to appear, that we will be in the same page. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I like to talk, as you can tell. So sorry about that.
No. This is great, and I think a lot of the answers kind of resonate with everything that we're hearing. I love the Bob part, the beauty of business, which I think we haven't heard before. But I think one that it's really important and sometimes is disregarded, that you have a lot of founders, they're just trying to find a good company to build, but they're really not that passionate about that problem that they're solving. And they don't realize that the road is really, really long. And it's not always like good and happy. It's going to go through horrible times. So if there's no that founder market fit, it's not going to help you push through it, right? So I think that's super important, and I'm very glad that you brought it up as well. Nico, what have been some of those amazing pitches that you've heard through be transformative, and because something from the team immediately sparked this vision of excellence, or because the idea was incredible? Of course, we know you are early stage investor in Nubank, and we heard from David as well. So that story is clear, but is there another one that comes to mind, and what made that pitch so compelling?
Unfortunately, this is not science and it's art, at least in our view. And so a great pitch is the pitch where we can learn about the business, about the market, and about the founder. It's that pitch that you just learned a lot, right? About an industry, about a business, that it's clear that you can see that the founder is extremely well educated in what they are doing. It's that pitch that opens makes your eyes open, because it's fluid, it's well built, it's well practiced most of the times, and where you can see that the founder has all these things that we are looking for: the passion, the resilience, that's coachable, the leadership, all those things that this is the right founder. So it's just magic happens. It's not that there's one thing, but there are many mistakes that we commonly see.
What are those?
So I would say that are mistakes that are mostly built because of arrogance from founders. So when you see a lack of preparation, right? Why? Because I can do it.
I can wing it.
Yeah, and just to give you a sense of like what we like to do at Mercado Libre, it's whenever we had a pitch, we prepare that weeks before. We build the material. Then we practice, each of us ourselves, our part of the pitch, and then we do it all together, and we would practice and give, share thoughts on how to improve it, and then we would pre-build a Q&A, a list of questions that we could get from investors, and we would work on each of the answers that we would be giving to those questions. We were extremely prepared. It's like, what type of t-shirt or shirt are you gonna wear? It's like the other day with Hernan, we were going to a meeting, and it was not a pitch at all, but it's like, okay, the day before, it's like you're taking stripes, and I'm taking like flat shirt, and it's like one color shirt, and it's like we really think of all the details, because you don't want to leave anything to chance. You want to be in control of things, and I would say that main mistake is when we see founders that they come to pitch without the preparation, not knowing the market, not knowing the industry, sometimes not knowing even their numbers, right? And to the question is like, what's your moat? Let me think. Arrogance can definitely kill you here. Overlooking at risks, it's like all those type of things. And by the way, when meeting with a VC, at least when meeting with us, we are not literally, because we don't do that, but in our minds, we are recording absolutely everything, right? What was the behavior of the founder when got into the office? When it's like sitting down, waiting for us to sit down. Then the glass on the table when leaving. Does the founder ask, where should I leave the glass, or just leaves everything there? It's like, of course, these are just nuances, and it's not what we look into like as the main thing, but we look into absolutely every behavioral thing, into every word. So be very, very well prepared always.
No, and I love how what you're calling it, right? Like when someone comes not prepared, it just feels like pure arrogance. And that should never be the case. And I think one additional thing to what you say is like, you need to know who you're meeting, right? Like do a little bit of diligence of not only the firm, but also the person that you're meeting. And it doesn't matter if it's the analyst, the associate, the managing partner of the firm, but that's key.
And actually, that it's interesting. That's another point that because what's our funnel? And just sharing a little bit about our practice, right? Companies usually knock our door. Founders usually knock our door, and in that moment, someone will just grab that meeting, right? And it could be me, it could be another partner, it could be an associate, it could be a principal, an analyst, and sometimes it's like now it's fewer times, but it's like no, it's like I want to talk with the partner. No. It's like here the way we decide investments, and we might be quite particular, right? But we get all together in a table, a Zoom, and it's all of us. It's everybody in the investment team. Even if it's someone that joined 2 weeks ago, it doesn't matter. Everybody has a voice, and everybody builds conviction on a company, and we decide collectively. We decide all together. So every interaction with every team member is important. It doesn't matter who that person is. Actually, sometimes it's even better. Sometimes we say, no, I just want to talk with a partner. But sometimes actually it's even better to start talking with someone that's not a partner, because in that conversation you can also learn. It's like what are the things that the Kaszek cares about, right? So it's like you knock the door, and whoever gets the meeting, just go for it and shine, because the process, by the way, it's a multi-step, right? It's going to be a first meeting, then there's going to be another call, and then there might be another call, and then we might come to a decision. This can be very fast. We can do this in 48 hours. We've done investments in 24 hours. It's not what we like to do, but it moves very fast. So trying to jump steps, not recommended, because it always requires some steps.
I don't know how many times I've heard from a founder that I've introduced an investor to, oh yeah, but he's not the one that is gonna talk to me first. It's gonna be someone else from the team. I'm like, it doesn't matter who's gonna be from the team. Plus, what you said is very important, is you learn so much from the rest of the team, and it's gonna help you understand the firm better, and it's all gonna help you prepare for the following conversation. But again, it's that arrogance that needs to be in zero when you're having those conversations.
And now, very important, that arrogance should also be in zero from the investor side.
Exactly.
It's like we are all here to learn, and and to try to see if we can connect to build a great business together, which, by the way, you the founder, you're going to be responsible for 99.9% of the things, making it happen. We might add a little bit here or there, but in the end, that connection should always have zero arrogance, because the only way to build things is to be open to learning and exploring and becoming a team, right? And building a team together.
Yeah, and on flipping the question the other side, like usually founders go, and of course the first thing is a reaction to hello and go immediately into pitch. How much of it should be that way, or how much they get to have a space on asking questions to the fund in that initial meeting to understand a little bit more, to understand how they make decisions, the process, even if they did the research? I think it's very different hearing it from directly. How do you think about those interactions?
Yeah, so bringing a fund on board, it's the same as bringing a C-level on board, right? You're deciding to, okay, let's get a CFO or a CTO or whatever. Like, it's extremely important to learn from that person that you're bringing, right? To do your homework and understand who this person or firm is, how they act, what are their values. So whenever you are connecting with a firm, it is very important to show what you're doing, but it is also very important to try to also learn a little bit more about the firm. If you're at a point where you're deciding, to sign a term sheet, etc., the investors by then probably had spoken with even your teacher from high school, right? To get references about you. But everybody all founders should also do the same with investors if possible. So, okay, who got investments from Kaszek? Okay, the Nubank, Quinto Andar, Notco, this, the other. Okay, you should always try to talk with founders that got investment from those firms, to ask them to learn more about the firm and to see if it's like, it makes sense for what you want as an investor. Because again, an investor is someone that will be with you for the next decade, 2 decades. So it's extremely important. And when pitching, it's always good to make some questions. Should you do it in the beginning, at the end? My personal preference as an investor, I think that here the most important thing is the company and you as an entrepreneur, that you are the one changing the world. So I'm more eager to learn a lot about you and what you are doing, right? And this is the key of the meeting. So probably starting with the company, and then last 10 minutes, we always try to stop the conversation 5 minutes before the hour and say, okay, it's like, we drove you crazy with questions. Please ask us whatever you want. And we do this in every interaction that the founders have with us, with our team, with any of us. There's always some space that we like to leave so that the founder can ask as much as the founder wants, anything that founders want. So very important. Do it.
Cool. Nico, when raising a Series A, you're gonna have conversations with investors that either want to lead or those who want to follow. And to be honest, there's always more the ones that want to follow than the ones who want to take the lead. How should founders navigate the dynamics to balance both things, right? To speed up a potential leading making a decision without losing the interest of the ones who are just waiting for the round to be priced for them to decide if they're going in or not?
Yeah. So the key thing is always to get a lead investor, no doubts, someone that commits, that has that level of conviction. That should be the aim. Of course, it happens that you get I'll follow, not ready to fully commit, so I'll put a smaller check, or maybe it's because it's a smaller fund and can't bring the full amount. I think that to keep them warm, the best way is if you have an extraordinary company. If you have a great company, they will stay and wait as much as needed. If the company is not extraordinary, there are some doubts, then yeah, it might be harder. But I would say that the key element here is to make sure that the process that you're structuring, it's focused on a few days or weeks. So when portfolio companies will work with them on fundraising, our suggestion is make sure you have your deck, your materials. Let's make sure that you have your pitch. Let's make sure that we practice. You practice and we practice the pitch, and that we made you 100 questions, and that we bombarded you with thoughts and ideas and question marks, etc., etc. Once we have this, okay, now let's connect with all the funds that we would like to be participating, which is like every fund that you know that makes sense for you. If you are in Dubai, a company for Dubai, Kaszek is not an option. So you don't send an email to Kaszek. But if you're in Latam, send an email to Kaszek, right? Knock the door. So grab that list and in 1-2 days, just blast everybody. And then
Cold,
make sure
not
that
cold, or does it come from warm introduction from you guys? Does it?
ideally warm. It depends on each case, but warm introduction is always better. And it's always better if the introduction comes from another founder.
Better than another fund.
Because, yeah, if it's from another fund, if it's a fund that's already in the cap table, then, yeah, obviously. If it's a fund that it's not in the cap table, then why aren't you investing, right? So it is okay. If it's what you have, use a fund. But if you can have a founder, it's better. Ideally, you would have already built some relationships with the funds in the past. So it's just letting them know that you're starting your fundraising process. But try to do that in 1 or 2 days so that you can schedule then the following week, Zoom, every day, all day. And then depending on where you are, but from Latam, it's usually maybe you can do, and depending on the stage, right? But you can do a couple of days in Palo Alto and a couple of days in New York, 1 week all together. So I'm talking about a growth round, right? Probably it's like companies that we already invested. Okay, let's go and talk with other funds. But try to do that in just 2 weeks, right? All the meetings in 1-2 weeks, as much compressed as possible. Why? Because you want to build momentum, and you want to make sure that everybody's kind of like at the same pace, so that you don't have these situations where you need to leave people waiting for 3 weeks until you meet with another fund that might be leading, etc., etc. So try to condense everything by once at once in a couple of weeks. And by the way, another suggestion: the first 5 meetings, try to do those meetings with the funds that you're less interested in. Meeting number 6, bring the one you're interested in, because you will want to give them as much time to do the homework as possible. But the first 5, the first day, just like take it easy, because you might learn some stuff from those 5 meetings and do some slight changes in your pitch that might be useful for the important ones.
Yeah, and I think that's important. You should be iterating your pitch and adjusting it almost after every meeting and debriefing yourself and your co-founders on both style, tone, design, order, the whole thing. So it's not an static process as well. Nico, this has been fascinating. Final words of advice for everybody that is going through this process?
Yeah, make sure you're prepared. Most important thing is have an extraordinary company, right? It doesn't matter how well prepared you are. The most important thing is having something that is really great, but don't rely on I have a great product, so it's like I won't do the homework and prepare myself for when raising capital. And actually, this doesn't apply just for raising capital. If you're going to do an interview for a newspaper or a blog, or if you're going to talk with clients, or if you're going to hire someone, it's like you should always be prepared, because as entrepreneurs, we don't want to leave anything to be defined by chance. You want to have as much control as possible, because what we are doing is extremely hard. What you are doing is extremely hard. There are so many variables and uncertainties that everything that you can grab and try to control from your end, just do it. Don't overdo things, because you don't want to be paralyzed by analysis. But make sure that you do the homework. Those days when we were in high school or the university, that we had an exam, we prepared for the exam, right? If you want to get an A, you need to be prepared. You need to study, you need to practice, and this is the same thing. If here we're aiming to be, an A, and by the way, an A++++, which is what's required to change the world and change industries, then we should prepare ourselves for that.
Amazing. Nico, thank you so much for your time. I know there's a lot of more questions that comes from the YouTube Live and from Zoom that we didn't have the chance to answer, but thank you for spending this 45 minutes with us.
My pleasure. Happy to chat with anyone who wants to. My email is nik@kaszek.com. So just shoot an email, and looking forward to that.
Gracias, Nico.
Abrazo grande. Gracias.
Un abrazo.
Bye-bye.
I often help companies raise Series A or Series B rounds, and one of my first recommendations for them is to hire JP Donoso. He's the founder of Optics, and this is a company that provides financial advice and services that enable you to prepare your company to raise a round. JP and his team helped us at Rappi for a really long time as part of the internal team, and they've helped dozens of companies complete very successful rounds. I know JP and his work personally, and I highly recommend it. He has worked with over 40 startups in Mexico, the US, and Colombia, including Via, On Top, Cobre, Tool, and many others. Hiring him is a no-brainer, so just do it.